So we all have feelings about how to propagate plants. Some people swear by sphagnum moss, other people use leca, and then of course there's the classic water method, which is classic for a reason. But which one actually works best? Well, today I've tested 6 different propagation methods on 6 different types of plants, and the results might surprise you. Today you'll see which one rooted fastest, which ones are okay, and which method I probably won't ever use again. I think everyone has a go-to method for propagation. You can use water, moss, leca, perlite, fluval stratum has come up recently. I'll explain what that is in a sec. But me, I actually use all of them, to be honest. And yet I'm always asking myself, which method should I choose today? So I thought, instead of guessing and choosing based on my feelings, why don't I actually test all of them and see which one works best? So that's what I'm going to set up today. I'm going to run a little experiment. Now, over the last few videos that I've shared, I've been doing a lot of propagations recently, trying to get my plants to look pretty again, which means all the overgrowth that I have received, I now need to propagate. But I've also got some plants that need rescuing a bit as well. So it's the perfect time to test with a few different mediums to see which one works best for my plants. But to do that, I need to do it across different types of plants and different types of mediums. So in terms of the propagation mediums, here's what I've used. Well, obviously, we've got to try the classic water method. As I said, it's classic for a reason. It's very easy to monitor. You can see the root growth, but it is quite low in oxygen compared to something with air, for example, and there's no nutrients in the water. Next thing I'm going to use is perlite. So perlite, I've seen a lot of people using. I haven't really tried a lot myself, but we're going to test it in this video. And it's obviously super airy. It's very light. It's a bit dusty. I can see dust coming out of it. So it's great for oxygen because it's really light and airy, but it does dry out quicker and it does need a container to hold it in. But again, I guess most of these mediums will in this test. Next one, leca. This is just clay. So clay in balls, and they hold a lot of moisture, but also a lot of air at the same time, which is why people love them, especially for hydroponic situations. They are reusable, but they do need a rinse. And again, they need another reservoir set up, and they usually need nutrients in that reservoir. So we're going to try that one as well. Okay, next one is probably my favorite method at the moment, and that is using sphagnum moss. I do reuse the moss. I find it lasts for a long time, and it's really, really moisture retentive. So not only is it good with airflow, you can see a lot of air in this little cup, but it's also really good to hold moisture. It's a nice, even mix. But it can stay too wet for too long, especially if it's packed too tight. And then if it is packed too tight, once it dries out, it's really hard to water again. For example, moss poles, a lot of people complain about watering moss poles because the water just flows out for them. You've got to keep this damp for it to work properly. So you definitely need to use that in our test. And then I've got 2 more mediums, which are probably a little less used in the propagation world, although many people still use them. The first one is something called fluval stratum. It just looks like these little black little bauble things, and it's used a lot with fish at the base to help keep your plants in it. So it's a very nutrient-rich aquatic substrate that holds moisture well and is often used in aquariums. And the final one we're going to try is pon. In this case, the brand is Lechuza, and it's just a mix of different type of minerals. It's like a chunky hydro mix, and it does have excellent drainage. It has a little bit of nutrients in the mixture, I believe, and it's low fast, high oxygen, and very soil free. But it is more expensive than everything else on this testing list. So we're going to try all 6. I'm very interested to see which one works today, and you're going to come along with me. For my plants, I'm going to try 6 different types. I mentioned them earlier, but to be specific, I've got my Monstera Adansonii, which I did a recent video on, and I gave it a bit of a glow up. So I've got a lot of cuttings from that we need to test. I've got my mini Monstera, my Raphidophera Tetrasperma, known as a mini Monstera, one of those overgrown plants that I have, and it was toppling over and doesn't have a moss pole to grow up, so I need to add a moss pole to the one that I've chopped up. I've also got a lot of cuttings from there. I've got my neon Pothos here. It's huge, it's growing way too fast, and I've let the growths overgrow a little bit too much, but it's super fast and super easy to propagate, so I really want to make sure I've got a Pothos in the mix. I've also got a white princess, which I'll show you. This guy needs help, or this girl, I guess, needs help. It has been outside and it got white leaves at the top, so I had to cut the whole top off. While the top of the plant still has some leaves, the bottoms are really bare. So I just want to fix that, start again a little bit. I've been ignoring her and I just want to make her look pretty again. So she's in the mix. I've got another plant that's not doing so well, and it's my Hoya Crimson Queen. The top again is a lot of leaves, but it's in a place that's a bit too low light. It's lost a lot of leaves down the bottom, so I want to try and regrow some cuttings so I can add it back into the base of the plant and grow again. My final plant in the list is a Syngonium. It's my Syngonium Three Kings. It's outside, it's got too much light, and it's lost some leaves, so I just want to make it pretty again. I've got a lot of plants and I've got a lot of mediums, so perfect time to give these guys a test. Okay, so this is all of the cuttings that we've got. I've got a couple outside that I've just wiped down because they're a bit dusty. So I've got the 6 different plants. So now what I'm trying to do is just make sure that the pieces that I am propagating together are as even as possible. It's not the easiest thing to do because they do have different growing patterns. Syngonium compared to a Raphidophera or mini Monstera is very, very different, obviously. But I am trying to keep about the same amount of leaves and just trying to make it as even as possible. And pretty much everything will go into these plastic cups. So again, all the perlite versus all the fluval versus all the pon will be in the same medium. So I am still trying to do as best as I can, but this is not a lab. This is just a homemade experiment. So I'm going to do my best and let's see how we go. Okay, so now I'll pot it up there a little bit more bigger than I thought they might be, but that's okay. We've got our 6 mediums now, so let's pop them in their right spots and go from there. So with this test, I'm giving them all the same lighting, the same temperature, and I'm not going to add any hormone or any extra nutrients into the substrate, into the water with that substrate. So the playing field is as level as possible, and I can compare one propagation method to the next. I'm going to be tracking them over the next 4 to 6 weeks. It is going into winter here. It's basically winter, but the weather outside is still a bit warmer. It's about 20 degrees. So it might take a little bit longer for these propagation methods to work, but I am going to keep them in a bit of a heated situation. I've got some heat mats. So I'm going to try and make them as comfortable as possible, and we're going to track them over the next 4 to 6 weeks. If they work in winter in my tropical climate, they would definitely work during spring and summer. So once the results are in, you'll probably see in about 10 seconds. I'll come back in 4 to 6 weeks and share what worked, what didn't, and which propagation method gets the champion, star emojis and all of that, and the ones I'm probably going to use the most from now on. So you'll be able to see it straight away here. But for me, I'll see you in a few weeks. Today is the day that we're going to have a look at all the cuttings. I'm going to go upstairs. Got my tray to grab them all. Way too heavy a tray. It's something that wasn't glass. But let's have a look. Definitely should have got something a little bit lighter than some glass. Okay, that's okay. Okay, are we ready? Knock on my table. Right, so I've got everything set up here. I've got a white piece of paper down with the names of, there we go, the mediums, just so I don't lose track of everything. It's got it listed up on the side. I've got a white piece of paper here. Here are the plants. They're all looking pretty good considering it's been 6 weeks in the middle of winter, but it has had my special heat mat propagation treatment. If you haven't seen my previous video around propagation methods to really maximize your propagation, please do go watch that first and then come back to this and we can talk about the different mediums. This is going to be so exciting. I'm so excited. So let's just have a look at the cups as they are, because I saw a couple when I was coming down the stairs. So let's have a look at each medium as we go, right? So the first one is, this is the Lechuza pond. I can see a couple of roots. There's some thick ones there, chunkies. There we go. Chunkies. Anything on the base? Nope, nothing on the base. Perlite, all looking pretty healthy. Except maybe that one. What's that one? Oh, yeah, but there's plenty of leaves there, so we're good. Oh, is that a new leaf? That's a new leaf. It's grown a new leaf while it's been sitting here. Okay, and roots. Yep, we definitely have some chunkiness going on there. That's good. Got some at the base. Oh, there's some new ones there. Wow, look, they're forming well. Here we go. Okay, but now this is the leca. This is the one I actually think is going to be doing the least for me, but could be surprised. Oh, there's some roots coming out the base there. Oh yeah, there's quite a few. Oh, just quite a few. Oops. Don't mind my floor. No one's here except us plant people. We all love that. What else? Can you see? Oh, so hard to see sometimes. Can you see the roots through there? Look through there. It's a drop like everywhere. If planting, we all know it makes a mess. That's okay. Okay, that's the leca. Fluval. Oh, look at those thick, chunky roots. There's some good ones coming around there. Look at that. Oh, wow. And it's got secondary roots coming off the first roots, the initial roots, which is really healthy. Gosh, there's some good stuff going there. And any new leaves? No, but I can tell you, I have noticed every single, you can see it right here, every single pothos plant. We all know that pothos is very fast growing. Well, I hope we all know that. But the pothos, every pothos growth or cutting has got a new leaf coming out. That one there. Every single plant I've noticed, every single pothos plant in every single one of these pots has a new cutting. A new growth coming out. Okay, well, that's fallen over. Water. Oh, we've of the water. They've all got good growth. Honestly, that's because of the setup that I've got it at. And then this is, oh my gosh, this is sphagnum. This is the one I personally think will win. Looks pretty good. It's going to be hard to get all of that sphagnum moss off. That's the only con really of it. Can you see all those roots? That is crazy. It's crazy, 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 crazy. Look at it. So bear with me. I'm going to use my little pot here and I'm going to take them out of the medium. We're going to look as we go. You won't see it all. But I'm going to use this just to make things less easier. And then we'll take out the plant root one by one and go from there. Yeah. Water, we think, is king, right? And the roots have done pretty well. The hard part about water propagation is the fact that they've turned into a little bit of a water root scenario. And now if we're going to pot it back into some kind of thicker medium or airy medium, they have to regrow new roots again. So it can be harder to propagate across. It hasn't done so well. No roots whatsoever. But that's because the water wasn't even touching the growth, which is a bit of a shame. I obviously didn't cut that short enough. So it's a bit of a shame. That's probably my fault more than the experiment. Oh, look at that. That's just got slodgy. Well, that's because that's a sheath. That's not roots. The root hasn't done anything there for my white princess in the water. Who's the king of growth in water? Okay, that's my Tetrasperma. Not too bad. Healthy-ish. The leaves are healthy enough, so he's not too bad. Can I get him off? Yep. Oh, that's a decent one. Look at that Syngonium. Look at that. That's pretty good. That's crazy. Okay. Oh. Hoyas are slow growers. Look at that. Hoyas are slow growers. It's got a tiny little bit. Come on, focus. There we go. Tiny, tiny little bit. But to be honest, as I said, Hoyas are slow growers. And I wasn't expecting this one to do as well as the others. But I do want to see which medium helps a Hoya the best. And then look at that. The Pothos just loves propagating. Just loves growing roots, I think. And there you go. There's the new little growth point there. There. Perlite. Okay, let's do the perlite. That came off easily, which is good. Okay. Just see, let me give me the tiny, tiny roots. Tiny, tiny roots there. I have this metallic watch band and it keeps getting stuck. The things, anything metallic, it just sticks to, not just the watch band. So a bit annoying sometimes. So this is the new leaf growth. This is my white princess. Roots aren't too bad. Top roots have come through the perlite, like they've all grown into the perlite. So it's because I sat it deep. So that's not bad. That's not bad. So look, that's not bad. Look at it all. Like lightning strikes almost. There. Gravy. Again, my Raphidophera hasn't done well at all. This one was definitely in the water. That's actually a rotted root. But the leaf is still healthy. It's quite crazy. And there is a little bit of rot at the end there, but it hasn't gone anywhere up. And honestly, I don't freak out if that happens because it hasn't gone anywhere up. That's pretty natural. It's just getting rid of the part that it doesn't need. Perhaps go all the way up. But honestly, for me, it hardly ever goes all the way. As long as you've got the right conditions, it'll do a little bit and then stop. So he's not got any roots, which is a bit unfortunate. And then we have our Adansonii, Monstera Adansonii. He's got some good roots compared to the water one. That's pretty good. Okay, and then the perlite, Syngonium. Whew, that's a lot of roots again. All the way up and down. Some nice faint roots there coming off. That was a secondary root coming off the first root, if you can just see that. Okay. Right, so that's the perlite one. Okay, out they come. Look it over so you can see it a bit more. Okay, so for the leca one, let's start with the weird one. This is my, what's missing? Adansonii. This is my Syngonium. What happened to the leaves? Okay, that's the top part. Started growing a brand new shoot. A brand new shoot where the water, or like below the surface where all the leca and water was sitting. Those secondary roots there. Beautiful. So it's got no leaf from the top. It's got a little node there that looks like it's about to, see it just there? Looks like it's about to start growing, or has a tiny, tiny bit of growth. So there's definitely a node point as well. I mean, it's still got roots, so put that back in there. This is my Raphidophera. Again, didn't like the leca at all, actually. And it's very floppy. It wasn't getting enough energy, obviously. There's a little bit of rot going all the way up close, but I think I can still save that, admittedly. So I'm going to keep that. It hasn't won the leca propagation wars today, the showdown, but okay. Oh, look at the tiny, tiny roots. Look at that. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, and then philodendron. Again, oh wow, that's some serious root growth. Can you see that? Look at that. See, there's root coming off roots there. And new growth. And a new growth. It's pretty cool. There's roots coming out the whole, oh wow, that's the top root. I don't know. There's roots coming out there. They're all through it, so that's quite cool. And then pop him very gently back in there. And then the last two, my Pothos, a brand new growth. Good roots. Brand new growth. And then that's very weak. It just started putting out a new root. Just there. So yeah, okay. So interesting so far. I mean, all the stronger plants, all the plants, I guess, that you can propagate easier have a lot of roots. All the plants that you can't propagate easily don't have a lot of roots. I can't really see any clear winner at the moment, I'll be honest. Maybe the perlite is winning. Sorry, can you hear me? What do you think is winning right now? Perlite? I think perlite is winning so far. Okay, let's do fluval next. That's on my list next. This is the one I'm super interested in because I don't propagate a lot. I've heard a lot of people have a lot of success and I can see some really thick, chunky roots. Let's dig into it and see what it's showing me. Okay, how do I pour all of this out? Oh, there we go. It's the only thing with fluval, it goes everywhere because it's so small, and fluval crushes into nothing very easily. Oh, I feel like I'm going to make a mess. Crushes into nothing very easily. It's the only thing I don't like about fluval, but you can reuse it, definitely. There we go. Yeah, I'd definitely say fluval and perlite is probably the messiest out of the lot. Okay, this is the Raphidophera. We got some growth on this one. And okay, so we've got some root growth now for the mini Monstera, which is a Raphidophera Tetrasperma. So it looks like a Monstera. But some half decent growth. That root growth you can see there that comes off, so that's not doing well for me. So that's that one. Stay. Okay, this is the Adansonii. I lost all the little leaves. A bit of a stump. No rot, which is good. And a tiny, tiny, tiny little nub of root growth. Yeah, you can see the tiny, 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 tiny. But there is growth, so that's a positive. Goes right down the bottom. Right, so let's get the big, thick, chunky one. Now, remember in this plant, I've tried to keep the pieces as even as I could, but it was really difficult when I was cutting it up. So this is the white princess. Tiny, you can't see it because there's black everywhere, but that's a new growth. That's a new growth. That is an old one, but not a lot of root growth there at all. And then, I wonder if this helps my Hoya. Let's have a look. Okay, so the two growth, the Syngonium and the Pothos always do well. Some decent roots there. Not as big as some of the other ones, but it is only one node that was sitting in the fluval altogether. So it's quite a lot of root growth coming through the actual base. Look, there's not even nodes there, but there's roots coming out. Can you see that? So it's coming out of the actual stem, not even the node for the roots. So that's very interesting. This is what it is. But look at that, roots. Secondary roots, root growth. I might have to give these one a wash so I can get all the fluval off. And then, oh, Hoyas are very slow growers, but he's got a tiny, tiny little bit as well. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. Okay, so that's the fluval. Right, I need to do something with this fluval. I want to reuse everything, so I'm not going to throw it away at all. Fluval is not the cheapest medium, so you definitely don't want to just throw it away after one use. Even if it does crumble a little bit, it's fine. It's still okay to use. So I'm going to let that dry out a bit. Looks like caviar. I'm going to let it dry out a bit, and then I'm going to pop it back in the bag that I have where all the fluval started. Lechuza pond. Again, I want to reuse this. This is not cheap stuff. So let's gently take it all out. So this is the white princess. Oh, and a little growth point there. I know it's fuzzy. Sorry, hold on. Get rid of my red. There we go. There's a growth point there. It's an actual growth point, but actually I probably should put it that way. It's easier to see. So it's growing up, and then that one didn't unfurl properly. It got dry in the time frame. This is my Adansonii. So it has had some root growth, but not a lot. Can you see that? Yeah, so there's one root cluster, I would say, coming out there. And there's a tiny little growth point there, which is actually leaves, not roots, like a little branch coming out. So that's Syngonium has been growing really well. Oh my gosh. In all of them. I'm actually surprised how well the roots have grown for all of the Syngoniums. It's quite impressive. Oh, go away, watch. Keep magnetizing myself to the hilly bowl because it's a metal bowl. Right. Half D for roots. He has secondary roots coming off. That's really healthy. And look at that, a little growth point. Can you see it just there? Right in the middle. There. So good. And my Hoya. Okay, again, very, very small roots, but quite a few coming off all the way down. Yep, six different growth points from a stem perspective. Really hard to see. See, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6. I hope that makes sense on screen. But we can the Hoyas are far to grow. Oh, this didn't do so well at all. Look at that. Just one. Aw. Okay, pond. Okay, my Pothos just didn't like the pond. Pothos and pond do not go. No PPs. But there is a growth point. As I said before, every single Pothos had a growth point. It just loves to grow. Such an easy grower. The grow, as I keep saying, for beginners. And then finally, the Raphidophera. Can you see that? Roots have come out. So some roots have fallen off somewhere. I think they're secondary roots. Fallen off because it is, when it's water, it's really heavy. You can see how quick it gets there. It's really heavy, unlike the others. So it can be really damaging on its own. And then my Monstera mini, which is a Raphidophera. I should stop calling it Monstera. Technically a Raphidophera Tetrasperma, a different plant to a Monstera. But the leaf is healthy. The leaf is beautiful and healthy, so we're good there. Okay, so that's one. Okay, and then the last one. Now this is going to take a while for me to get all the sphagnum moss off, so I'll probably fast forward. So give me a bit of time. Let's just get it out the cup. Because you can see, oh, they're all going around the edge. Can you see that? Probably hard to tell on camera, but there's a lot going around the base of this pot. So let's get it out, Alvin. Sticking to the pot. There we go. Let me show you. There we go. You can see it better. There we go. Look at that. Look at them all. Whoops. Nearly dropped it. Look at some roots. That is nuts. But it is all on the outside. And, oh, he comes straight up. Wow. So he has got a tiny, tiny bit of roots. No growth on the root, but a huge new stem trying to come out because that was the tip of the plant. So he hasn't gone anywhere. I think we can still get some growth out of him. But he didn't do very well in the sphagnum at all, which is a bit of a shame. Oh, I've got plenty of right. Okay. Time to get the damp sphagnum off. This is going to take a while. Okay. We are done. That's the most I'm going to get off, I think. So this is the Syngonium. Wow, it roots so well. Now, yes, maybe one or two of these little strands, like there's a lot of fluff coming in that little like group, but these are roots. I'm pulling them and they are definitely roots, and all of those are roots, and that's really thick, chunky root. That's a really thick, chunky root. That's a really thick, chunky root. So he's done very well in sphagnum. And then we've got this one, my Adansonii. He's my Adansonia Monstera, and he's definitely done quite well. Yeah. Okay, that one. Right, my Hoya we looked at before. Tiny, 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 tiny roots. There we go. But they are the longest roots out of all of the Hoyas I've got. There we go. And my Raphidophera, aka Mini Monstera name. Again, some half decent, good size roots there. And a tiny, tiny leaf. So it's definitely done well for the amount of light that was coming through and giving it energy. And then my Pothos. It's a bit more of a tighter cluster, I would say, of roots, but a lot of roots coming off. Again, ignore the fairy partness or the fairiness of the roots, but you can definitely see like all of those secondary roots coming off the main one. Right, okay, so I've got to hold the medium up. Now I'm going to lay them on this sheet of paper, plants and mediums, and I'm going to try and list it all, and we're going to look at them side by side and see which method has won this showdown. Which one do you think it is based on all the roots? I think it's the sphagnum. I can see the best, but I also want to have a look at all the different types of plants, and maybe there's one type of medium that's better for one type of plant than another. Right. I wish I had a bigger space. It's not that easy to pick your elephants. Have a look. Maybe we look at them one by one. So out of the Monstera Adansonii, sphagnum moss definitely won. Nothing, hardly nothing, but that's a little bit unfair, I think, water. So water could have done okay. Pond. So sphagnum moss first, perlite for second. Well, look at that. Perlite and pond. Yeah. Okay. So for Adansonii, we got 1 and 2. For my white princess, that's pretty good. So for my Monstera princess, I've got probably the leca did the best, which is really surprising to me. Perlite number 2, he didn't do much at all. And the sphagnum moss, I'm not sure what happened there, because I have actually grown so many philodendron in sphagnum moss, so who knows? Right, the next one is the Hoya, tiny little bit of growth, but out of everything you can see, probably the pond. I'd probably say either the pond or maybe the sphagy, because they're longer. There's not as many and there's not as much space. So maybe the sphagy and the pond, but obviously the Hoya just needs a lot of time. The next one, Neon Pothos. This guy just loves being propagated. But definitely sphagnum moss won for that one as well. So sphagnum moss won there. And maybe, what do you think? Which one do you think won there? Probably the fluval? That's a bit longer. The leaves are both healthy. They've both got shoots. Probably the fluval by a tiny, tiny bit. Next one we got is my Raphidophera, which didn't do well across the board. A little bit, probably that's the most. And then the second most was the water, which is good. So water still does well for you. But again, sphagnum moss, I think, is the winner there. And the Syngonium, it just loves to be propagated. I knew Syngoniums were easy to propagate, but I didn't realize how much. It's not this experiment. But again, I think sphagnum moss definitely won out on that one. Even if you take off all of the furriness. Oh, I mean, just look, that's ridiculous. That is just crazy. And he did so well in pond. Pond did pretty well. I mean, nailed it all. As fluval did well as well. And then even we go to perlite and water. I mean, Syngonium seems to be the easiest. It's easier than maybe in this experiment. It's easier than the Pothos, which is mind-blowing to me. Right. So it's a bit of a mess. Can you see? You can see, I think we've got a winner of sphagnum across the board for most things, except for my philodendron, which I'm really surprised about, because philodendron and leca and philodendron and perlite has done very well. So what did I learn from this experiment? So I have always loved propagating in sphagnum moss, and I think this proves to me that it's probably still my winner out of this. This is what I think. What do you think out of this? Please add your comments below. Which one do you think won? Is it the one you expected? The one thing I would say, though, is no matter what medium you're growing in, it does all depend on the plant, because all of these plants are grown in a different way. You know, the Syngonium has grown so much more than I even realized in terms of propagations. And the Hoya has done very, very little, but it is a much thicker, tougher stem, and it's hard to grow from. So I would make sure that not only are you aware of how fast or slow your plant grows, I would also try and give it the best environment that it's growing in. Again, going back to my propagation 5 mistakes that killed my cuttings video, have a look at that, because you've got to have a nice, warm heat mat. Make sure you're refreshing the water as often as you can, every 4 to 5 days. All of that counts to make sure that the propagations stay healthy in the leaves as much as possible, so all of the energy can be focused into the root growth. I think that's really important. When it comes to leca, I don't think leca is the best propagation medium, but I do think I don't have an alocasia in here, and I really do like leca for alocasias because you need a lot of consistency in water. And look, I do think that water propagation is still up there somewhere. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. It's a lot less tedious than getting all the sphagnum moss up if you really want to. And it's done pretty well for the easier plants. So if you are a beginner, I still think propagating some nice, easy plants in water to learn how to do it, to learn how to watch the roots and see how they're growing, I think that's really important. And I would still absolutely advocate for that as well. And you can always put a little bit of like growth hormone liquid into the water. I didn't do it for this experiment because I wanted to see even Stevens kind of thing with all of the different propagation methods. But, that's pretty good growth. I would honestly say fluval for me is probably a bit of a trend thing. I mean, it has grown quite well. If you've got an aquarium, absolutely do it. But will I buy fluval again? Probably not. There's probably a few other tests that I can do. I have seen a lot of people propagate with fluval with alocasia corms. But for me, fluval, where's the ball? Fluval it's the same as pon. It is quite a thick, dense medium. Pon is even thicker. I can feel it's heavy, especially when it's damp with water. And for me, sphagnum moss has a lot more aeration through the medium versus pon, which is why I think it's done better, because it's then got a really good ratio of water and humidity because of that water, as well as air and oxygen. That's why I think it does the best in my head. Correct me if I'm wrong, tell me otherwise. So I probably wouldn't use fluval again. In my mind now, that's out. But for me, sphagnum moss is the clear winner for this showdown for me. I'm going to continue to do that. And yeah, I still stick to Pothos being one of the best things that you can propagate if you're a beginner. But I'm going to add nice Syngonium to that. I actually am astounded and shocked by that. It was really cool. And what else? I think that's it. So yeah, did you enjoy this experiment? I actually really loved it. This is really cool. I love learning new things and seeing those aha moments. I'm all about new growth, experimenting, trying different things. And I want to learn as I go with plants. And I think that's the best thing about, growing plants, is learning as you go. You don't know what you don't know. So obviously there's people like myself that have these YouTube accounts. Hopefully we're helping you learn as you go. Please drop a like. If you really liked this video, make sure you have subscribed as well if you want to see continued experiments, because I really want to do some more. But yeah, I think I'm going to lay it there. I'm going to lay down the ground rules and say sphagnum moss is the clear winner in my experiment. I'm going to continue using it. It is a bit fiddly, I'll be honest. I took a long time to get all of that stuff out. But for me, with the health of the roots and the growth of the roots in the end, it's so totally worth it. Are you going to change the way you propagate based on this experiment? That's it for my experiment. I'm going to clean up. As we finish up, just pop them all into a actual pot. I'm going to put it all back into sphagnum moss. I'm going to pot up the rest, and we will leave it there. So thank you very much for joining me. As always, have a week full of leaves, love and laughter, and lots of experimentation. And I will see you in this next video right above my head. See you later.